Blue Boots by Carol Newhouse. If you live in a small town in that Victorian house set well back from the road, where the lawn is separated by a gravel path that winds eternally before ending at a squared area housing the rusted hulk of a 1970 Buick, then everyone knows your name. Children fear you, particularly if they have dared to approach on a damp Halloween night when the wind howls, rustling the dead, dry corpses that lie piled below the naked arms reaching menacingly from thick wooden trunks. On those infrequent occasions when you go onto Main Street, people, old and young, peer from under hat brims, then quickly look away. 3 laughing 10-year-olds grab their marbles and cower in a doorway as the tap, tap of your walking stick resounds from the wooden boardwalk. No one would be surprised if unearthed skeletons of the murdered point bony fingers toward your residence demanding retribution. If perchance you were found in a huddled mass at the bottom of the stairs, ghostly culprits would be blamed amid sighs of relief. In this mundane world, everyone has created their own story, each tale with but one theme, and in this sameness lies its strength. You can reach out and grapple with it, trying again and again to diminish the whole by triumphing over each thread of the townsfolk's fantasy, but this painstaking process could be a life's work. Wait, these stories work to your advantage. As the local bugaboo, you are untouchable, free to commit dastardly deeds, particularly if your bent, like mine, is murderous. Of course, you may not have the luxury of owning such a mansion. Apparently, the per capita number of vacant houses, circa 1900, across North America is ever dwindling. You might instead live in the subarctic region of Canada in a city called Yellowknife, where most homes are single or double-wide trailers, the economic solution to building in an isolated rock environment where materials must be transported northward over 1,500 kilometers. Alas, creepy trees are non-existent. No fantastic pear tree whose dead trunk can stand 6 steps from Landor's cottage door, nor a virtual forest of decayed trees whose leaden-hued reek can surround the house of Usher. Spindly evergreens of stunted growth are such a poor substitute they might well have rendered Edgar Allan Poe speechless. The harsh climate militates against you too. The statistic of over 200 days each year when the mercury dips below freezing means you cannot separate yourself through dress. Wearing the bulky parka constructed to repel temperatures of minus 70 with the fur-lined hood and the illuminating strips across the arms and back, and the knee-high sorrel boots with double fleece liners and 2-inch thick soles, everybody looks the same. Oh yes, I forgot. Walking sticks slip on the ice. An appropriate setting does not exist. That is unfortunate. The perfect aura complements a perfect alibi, and homicidal types know an appropriate person must be established before a promising career is embarked upon. What then of our dilemma? Can a solution be found by examining the mysterious parts? The nemesis of Sherlock Holmes, Professor Moriarty, is, I fear, of little help. Genius, philosopher, abstract thinker, these essential elements of character are not confined to Moriarty. They may be aptly descriptive, but anyone displaying them in a city with a population of no more than 20,000 could hardly prevail while remaining unknown. Could we like the professor, sheltered in a cocoon, organize and expect the populace to turn a blind ear to the droning of the agents crying forward our instructions? Nor is there solace to be found in the crime fiction thought of as modern. Arch villains like Ed McBain's Deaf Man may have a lifetime that exceeds one or two novels, but these wicked creations have a large metropolitan city in which to lose themselves and elude the police. No, when you live in Yellowknife, you are truly disadvantaged. I was, then, in a most dismal state, resigning myself to a fate of crimelessness as the first of 8 months of winter weather commenced. The weeks churned by, and the number of daylight hours decreased as my list of potential victims increased. There seemed no end of irritating people whose names were duly inscribed in the pages of my pocket notebook. Store clerks, unfamiliar with stock, office personnel operating on an agenda of hindrance, neighbors insistent upon allowing their dog to defecate on my property, telephone company employers, and bank tellers. Just because. Yes, all present and accounted for. I reviewed the expanding register often in the early morning hours, repeating the names aloud. Percival Mueller. Suffocation would be a fitting end. Loretta Periwinkle. I could poison her water supply. P. Charles Endelman, my favorite victim. Garroting? Each night I chortled and planned as I imagined the headlines, testaments to my macabre triumphs. But for naught. These fantasies were chimeras, mere effigies of frustration disguised as images of consolation in an otherwise ordinary existence. I could not act. My hands were tied, and all because of the constraints of my locale. Each day I would awaken, breakfast, then embark upon my morning dog walk, planning to put aside my writing tablet once and for all. Why torment myself? The parchment could be buried under a heap of socks in an unused drawer of the bureau to lie forgotten forever. On days of firmer resolve, the decision to destroy the notebook would direct my intentions, and my step, in rhythm with my canine friend, would grow more determined. As nightfall approached, this will diminished until, like an opium addiction, the evil lure reasserted itself, and I found myself again staring at those notorious pages. The image of my blacklist began to override my senses. At night, it would appear in the midst of an otherwise banal dream. During the day, I could not help visualizing it, even when performing routine chores. On some occasions, I would catch myself before my mental processes wound too far down the murky path. On other occasions, I was not so lucky. Even my dog regarded me with suspicion when I began uttering grisly words while fitting him with his fleecy blue boots, a necessary preparation for an outdoor excursion in the far north. I sought relief through physical activity, and so we tramped, with the dog alternately pulling and halting for investigative forages into the snow. My muttering of commands was interspersed with the random interjection of phrases referring, of course, to my taboo obsession. If someone drew near, I would fall mute, then nod, for in a small town, friend and stranger are greeted alike. As time passed, I found more and more of my attention diverted. People stared, people waved. Changing the walk route did not erase this social obligation. Trudging the main thoroughfare meant cheerful pedestrians were replaced by cheerful motorists who followed the bizarre custom of honking their good morning. How could this be? What element of a habitual dog walk was generating this much interest? It was a puzzle whose solution was to elude me until a night toward November's end. On the evening in question, I approached a white van, for I had been told the driver was commissioned to convey attendees of the office Christmas party back to their residence. I settled into a seat, then leaned forward to provide directions to my abode. "It's not necessary," I was advised. "I know you." "Oh?" I frantically searched my memory, but to no avail. "Sure, I know you. You're the lady that always puts blue boots on your big dog. Everyone knows you." Oh, this gave me pause. Everyone knew me, but what did they know? I had joined no clubs and had never frequented the local drinking establishments. I rarely read the newspaper, and in 7 months had developed only the slightest of relationships with the neighbors. I had expressed no opinions. I was anonymous. Yet a set of blue boots on my dog had given the community all they needed to manufacture a false sense of familiarity. I was predictable, reliable, perhaps eccentric, but definitely soft-hearted, at least with regard to the cold feet of animals. I had unwittingly developed a persona. I was, in a word, harmless. I sat that night with my notebook open. Some preliminary weapons were assembled before me. Everything was perfect. It was time.